Hello everyone and welcome back to the Brightworks, where something very strange is about to go down. I sure hope you're ready for a wild game, because today we're taking a look at a match that was played recently on Greenest Fields. This map, well, it pops up every once in a while, and I do feel obligated to cast it because it certainly is probably the most unique one. If there were different categories, right, most played, most fun, this one definitely wins the title of most unique, because it features no metal spots. That's right, you cannot build metal extractors on this map. There's no point to, at the very least, because there's no spot where it will pull up anything but dirt and stone. So today, spawning, well, as the entire red team here, clumped up on the northern section, but leaded right here by the red team leader. It's going to be none other than Hazred, working right alongside Dot right here to go for a little bit of early game communism. Going to be working together to pump out a couple of bots, sending them around, and everybody, you can see, starting to scale their economies. All the way on the other side of the map, not working in such a big cluster, but still working in a team of three. We have the blue team leader, Niels309, going to be working with the Prog and Sneffy. So the way this map works, for anybody who maybe has never seen it before, I wouldn't blame you. It's definitely not a map that pops up very often. The way this map works is essentially the wind speed is high, and there's basically no other energy income, right? There's solar panels, there's all that regular stuff, but there's no other metal income, right? So there's reclaim, there's some rocks to eat up, there's some trees to eat up and convert into energy, but basically your entire economy is revolving around these E-converters. So these economies are gonna take a while to scale up, but of course once you get into that late game where your economy is mostly taken over by E-converters, suddenly you do find yourself in a fairly standard game, if not a very wide open map. So one of the things that's really important about this map, let's talk about the map a little bit. One of the things that's really important about this map is area control. Denying a big area of the map right here and locking it down is always going to be really valuable, because you can use that area to expand your economy, right? Bigger wind farms, bigger areas to expand your E-converter fields, all that good stuff. The other thing that's really powerful in this map is airplay. So going for a couple of those airplanes and sending them out early to try and bomb down your enemy's wind turbines, you can imagine is a killer strategy. Really, really crippling, especially on this map, because of the fact, of course, that everyone is going to be relying on wind power. You can imagine a couple of bombers here, a couple of bombers there, connecting in big ways would completely shut down the economy of one of the two teams here. It's one of the reasons why it's so often that we do see an air transition here, but obviously if you go for air right off the get-go, you're gonna not have very many resources. Yeah, air constructors, very inefficient. Across the board here, a little bit of aggression. We're starting to put units out on the field. We do have to be careful with these, though, because it leads me into the third thing. Did I say two things? I meant three things. The third thing that's going to be really important, and that's reclaim. Reclaim and resurrection. So you can imagine if you only start with 1,000 metal and you only generate 2 metal per second, every single piece of metal that you do put out on the field is going to be really, really important to keep your hands on. It's why the Yellow Commander is being so careful with these early game grunts, making sure to build them up to significant numbers and making sure not to lose any of them without taking a really exceptionally even trade, or a exceptionally uneven trade in the favor of the Yellow Commander, I guess is what I mean by that. Resbot goes down, and that's a nice pick-off right here in the early game. Little bit of a grunt-on-grunt battle from Pickle Daddy, the Cyan Commander. But right now, so many grunts across the field from the Yellow Commander. You can see multiple commanders working to pump out these grunts, trying to get them into position here to defend, while also moving them across the map to do a little bit of aggression. Lovely stuff from the red team. If ever there was a map that teamwork made the dream work, I think it's definitely this one. The powder blue commander, Narmain, in a little bit of trouble here. Does manage to stay alive, though. Some killer D-guns to cut down a whole bunch of those grunts and tons of metal down the drain. And the powder blue commander just barely manages to walk away from this. Early game grunt spam. So the reason this is so powerful, the reason this looks so powerful right here is obviously because we have multiple different economies spamming out grunts at this point. Dot was producing, essentially using 3 different commanders worth of metal. Now that that metal is dried up, though, the question is, what are we going to pivot into afterwards? Are we going to continue expanding the economy? A couple of constructors building wind turbines wouldn't be the worst idea, but definitely building them out of Armada constructors would be much better. Maybe that's the plan right here from Dex. He does appear to, yeah, be going into... Oh, there's a fly that's been bugging me all day. Sorry, I'm getting distracted here. If it lands on my monitor one more time, I'm going to actually pause this and go take care of business. You guys ever seen those salt shotguns? They're like a little pump-action salt shotgun. You load table salt into it and it fires salt, and they're used to kill houseflies. Need to get me one of those. Anyway, fly distractions aside, Armada wind turbines, a little bit cheaper here. 37 metal versus the Cortex 45. It's not the biggest difference in the world. Obviously, it's not the most important thing. But on a map where you're going to be building hundreds of wind turbines and every little scrap of metal counts, I definitely think it's worth it to go for some of those Armada wind turbines whenever possible. It makes me wonder if one day we'll see 8 players versus 8 players in such a coordinated battle that essentially you have things where one commander will be in the backline building economy, similar to what Xenodragon is doing right now, it seems like. Yeah, you can see Xeno handing out a whole bunch of these resources. Oh, there it is again. Handing out resources all over. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Getting distracted here by the tiniest details. Xenodragon handing over a bunch of resources right here, just using the economy to build more economy, but not necessarily using it to build units. And again, it's not the end of the world because you so desperately need somebody to be building power for the team so that it can be converted. Tank gets destroyed right there. Nicely done. This army of grunts has built back up to scale, and it does look like the maces are looking to get aggressive here as well. Easily overwhelmed, though. And that was a massive loss of metal right there. Easily about 300 metal worth of maces fallen on the field right there for effectively nothing. The early grunts, very, very resurrectable, very reclaimable, very recyclable, I guess the word that I'm looking for. All said and done, this trade is phenomenal here for the blue team. Yeah. Using the resbots to pick up all these units and put them back out on the field. We do have multiple different resbots up and running right now. I'd love to see these requeued to get this all back up and into shape. He who produces the more grunt will be the one who manages to take control over the field. One benefit for the blue team is that they are a little more spread out. It means that if there's a little bit of a run by, it is not centralized, right? It's going to be spread, the damage is going to be spread amidst the team. However, it also means that they're not going to have the same production capabilities in the early game as, say, for instance, the red team does, with all their commanders clustered together and able to build relatively close to each other. Still spamming out grunts here, though. Another option that we've certainly seen on this map that have yielded some value are Centurion. Yeah, believe it or not, when your opponent is going to go for mass grunt, and you know that they're going to go for mass grunt, because what other affordable options could they have? Going for mass Centurion, extremely resurrectable, extremely repairable. Yeah, it actually can work out really, really nicely. Resbots still trying to do their very best, trying to patch up as much of this as possible here. I wouldn't even mind seeing a higher investment in the Resbots, actually, yeah. Using more Resbots to resurrect this army even quicker and keep the aggression high. If you can manage to continue reinforcing it while also resurrecting it, I think you could probably find a really fabulous trade right here. Oh, there we go. A single tick managing to pop the E-converters over here of Kyril. Or maybe they're the E-converters of Dex. Either way, another one sneaks through. Oh no, and this is exactly what I'm talking about. So dangerous for just a single unit to sneak into the backline. Luckily, a grunt will be in position to take care of that from Dot here. But you can imagine, one or two of those gets into the backline and pops a chain of E-converters, and suddenly your entire economy, 6, 8, 10 metal, all goes to 0. It can have really devastating effects. One of the reasons why those E-converters are cost exactly 1 metal apiece. If you can't afford an E-converter, you are essentially completely knocked out of the game. It's like going bankrupt in Monopoly. There's just no alternatives. Other than, you know, relying on your teammates, which I guess is also a valid Monopoly strategy. To a degree. I don't know, are you a bartering with your opponents type of Monopoly player, or are you a solo Monopoly player? Let me know in the comments down below. Mace is resurrected here and firing away, scaring off some of these grunts right now, but we do have Fiends out on the field. Fiends are an interesting choice. I almost would have preferred Sumos, though. Yeah, just for a little bit more durability. The fact that the Fiends leave behind no corpse when they die, they explode into rubble directly. It does make me feel a little bit like maybe these might fall inefficiently, right? They might not get as good a trade as you would normally hope for. Oh my god, this fly is going to kill me. This will be the death of me. It's not heat stroke. It's not lack of water. Dehydration, that's the word. It'll be the flies. I kid you not, in this house, I have never seen a housefly. This is the first time I've ever seen a housefly in my life. I have no idea where this thing came from. Anyways. That probably sounds crazy to a lot of folks out there. I know, like, I mean, for all my childhood, I lived in a place with a lot of flies, but yeah, for whatever reason, they just don't exist in this climate, but apparently one of them snuck through somehow. I don't know, maybe it was in the back of a truck. Getting really easily distracted right here from this massive grunt battle going on. It's about 1 million grunts going up about 1 million more. All of them vying for control over this reclaim field here, trying to resurrect as much as possible and trying to put it all back on its feet. Now that we have the T2 lab up and running, though, I do wonder if maybe we want to stop grunt production, just start eating up a bunch of the grunts on the front lines and start swapping them out for some of those higher tech units. Certainly swapping out for a bunch of fiends would be better, if not slightly less efficient, right? Just because of the fact that you can't resurrect them. But aside from that one specific thing, obviously, fiends are quite good. Very, very high DPS. Shuriken here, trying to save the Lazarus spots. Trying. Key word here. I do like it, though. The Shuriken are going to have a really easy time finding value here, because obviously you can't really commit all too much into air forces, otherwise you're going to be in a really tricky situation. I love what Makata's doing here as well, locking down some of this section of the map with a bunch of LLTs. LLT is very expensive. Again, remember, this is 85 metal, which is nearly a tenth of the total metal that you start with in this game, and barely any more than you're going to make for the rest of the game. It's very, very low metal. There's some maps that have very low metal. This is probably the lowest metal it gets. We have a T2 Armada lab just about completed right here for the Maroon Commander, Hikari Akira, otherwise known as AD, apparently. What that T2 lab unlocks for Armada Commanders, of course, is the Butler. The Butler, a character well-versed in building wind turbines, perfect for building wind turbines, in fact. Throws up one wind turbine every 10 seconds or so. Makes it really, really efficient for throwing up massive wind turbine fields, and it's exactly what I'd like to see on this kind of map. Surprised, actually, to see that no commander is going to be going for that so far. Cortex T2 lab right now from Pickle Daddy, who starts going into a bit of a Sheldon ball. An expensive composition and very immobile. We'll have to see how effective it can be. If we can manage to get those Sheldons into a decent enough position and surround them by enough reinforcing forces, the pawns, the grunts, the maces, the ticks, all the rest of it, if we can keep those Sheldon, that core ball of Sheldon safe, it should be an opportunity for the blue team to push forward here, apply a little bit of pressure. But here we go. We managed to push our way into that mid-game. I'm going to call it a mid-game, despite barely getting into T2 right here. 11 minutes into the game, and we're barely on T2, as a couple of these bombers do fly across the map. Now, I did believe... Oh, no, we don't have fighters here. Yeah, no air transition yet from the blue team. A little bit behind in that regards, and the bombers immediately come in for the kill shot. Bombs away right here, directly into the massive cluster of wind turbines, popping the entire economy of Narmeen, the powder blue commander. A brutal connection right there from just 3 whirlwind bombers. Windmill. 3 Cortex bombers, managing to get some phenomenal value. Hundreds and hundreds of metal worth of wind turbines blown apart and several energy converters as well, meaning that Narmeen is going to have to be forced to rebuild here. Not before throwing up, though, at least one anti-air turret. What is that called? Nettle, that's the word. Forgot the name of the anti-air turret. Pretty good about it. I've got most of the unit names memorized. That was one of the things I remember when I was learning this game, when I was very, very green. One of the first things I did was try to commit every single unit to memory. Little did I know that they would be adding more. And they'd be changing them too. They'd be changing the names of units as well. Yeah, certainly shot myself in the foot by committing to that bit, but oh well. Well worth it, I suppose. Makad going for well-reinforced LLTs here. Again, it's not that these cost a lot of metal, but it's 320 metal out of, I mean, the grand total that you're ever going to make. Right now it's 16, which is not bad for Makad. Certainly better than an early game economy. Usually you start with about 8 to 10 metal in the early game. At this point, though, it looks like it is a little bit closer to a mid-game economy, maybe somewhere in between. 20 to 30 metal is certainly what I'd start to consider a T2 economy, where you can really start to pump out T2 units with any modicum of speed. A couple of anti-air bots mixed in here. The Manticore, ready to fire away at any shuriken that should get so bold. The massive wall of grunts, now outpaced. And this is the problem, right? As soon as you have all this T1 on the field, I mean, we are looking at nearly 3,400 metal worth of T1 units out on the field. A little bit of T2 mixed in there, a couple of feeds, but for the most part, basically all T1. And what that means is that you're essentially caught in a weird scenario where you have all this metal out on the field and you don't necessarily want to keep making it because you know it's going to be traded out inefficiently. But what else can you do? This is also another scary moment where a bunch of aggravators are available, and when those aggravators start to trade out against your LLTs, again, that's 85 metal per LLT, going to be right down the drain because those Rocketeers trade out 100% efficiently. A tricky situation. It really does come down to who can manage to control their team's metal a little bit better. I just caught the fly, by the way. Barehanded. Listen, I'm not one to brag about myself all too often, but I feel like Mr. Miyagi right now. Anyway. It's times like these when I wish I had a face cam on. Anyways. Hazard, yeah, definitely needs a little reinforcement. Glad to see the movement here from Dot. Sending a couple of those grunts over in order to, yeah, try and do something. Try and get some action going. But again, you can't really throw those units away either. If you lose all those units and they don't get traded out efficiently, you're just going to be dumping, again, that 3,000 metal, minus about 25% of it, over to the enemy team there. Shuriken looking for an opportunity right now, but there is a whole bunch of crossbow, the amphibious anti-air bot, available to protect this little core of pawns running forward right now. Dipping and diving around in the LLT. Nice D-gun right there. Very, very nicely done. Dissuades a lot of those from pushing forward and ultimately actually thwarts this attack. Very cool. Very nicely done by Niels309. And yeah, gonna be tricky for Makad to push forward here at this point. Having to deal with multiple fronts right now. Fronts, quote unquote, not really the LLT fronts that we normally see, but fronts nonetheless. Here we go. Sheldon looking for that value. Every time they connect with a grunt here, they do get a little bit closer to their goal, right? They gain a little bit of value, but still, we're gonna need to kill, I would say, basically this entire army in order to justify the cost here. Yeah, in fact, entirely, this entire yellow army needs to go down. 4,000 metal worth of Sheldon right here. It's 10 Sheldon is 4,000 metal worth versus the whopping 3,500 worth of T1, T2 comp from the yellow commander. Scout planes moving forward. Loads of fighters pumped out by the brown commander. What a joint effort right here. Yep. The brown fighters escorting the orange bombers headed directly towards the production center here for the blue commander. Targeting down the air lab to make sure no air reinforcements do come up. The air lab pops. What a beautiful play right there from the red team. The brown commander, Goth Moth. I love that name. That's hilarious. Goth Moth and looks like Xenodragon going to be working together to lay down the hurt right there. Very, very nicely done. Bombers coming around for another run by. There they go. Flying into the enemy wind sections and decimating those wind turbines. Beautifully done right there by both of those cheeky red commanders. Wonderfully done. E-converters popping all over the map right here, and so far the damage has all been on the side of the blue team. At this point, it's hard to see the blue team coming back into this game. The red team leading with a 6k advantage to, or 6k energy to 4k energy. 6.5 really. 1,000 energy here for the red team as opposed to the nearly 4,000, a little over 4,000 energy from the blue. The reason I point out the energy more than anything is because obviously on this map, it really is. All of your economy is based on your energy, so that's basically how the cookie crumbles on this map. You lose your wind turbines and suddenly you're knocked out of the game. Here we go though. This is one area where the Sheldon might be able to bring this game back, because if they can trade out really efficiently against all this, oh, some beautiful self-deep micro right there. Fiend rushing forward into this ball of T1 units, self-destructing and leaving no wreck while also blowing up a large swath of units. If I select this Fiend right here, you can see that outer red circle right there, that flashing yellow-red circle. That's the explosion radius if you self-destruct a Fiend. So when you self-destruct one of these bad boys, they get quite a more significant damage bonus. Oh, what a battle. That's pretty beautiful. That's pretty beautiful right there. This game has some movie magic to it, really. It has some cinema moments that are wonderful. When you manage to self-destruct those, especially against T1, but also medium tanks are another one that are really, really popular and really useful to self-destruct against, you can end up taking out way more than you normally would do with just the Fiend alone. Obviously a tricky thing to call, right? It requires experience to make that judgment call, but oftentimes if you can pull it off, you're rewarded with a really, really powerful and efficient connection. How many times have I said efficient this match, this playthrough? This cast, that's the word for what this is called. Probably a lot. Because it really is the only important thing in this kind of a match. Yeah. Both teams looking to go the distance here. Fusion reactors already up and running for the red commander Hazard. It's essentially necessary. It's the jumpstart of the T2 economy. Once you get those fusion reactors up and running, you can actually start thinking about serious E-converters, the T2 E-converters. 600 energy into 10.3 metal per second is quite nice. And obviously, once you get those started up, it's easier and easier to start up more fusion reactors, and that pays for more energy converters and so on and so forth. It's the upward ever-ending spiral that is the Beyond All Reason economies. Recently, we have had a lot of influx of players joining us from more of a StarCraft 2 perspective. Always happy to introduce and induct more people into your next newest your next newest addiction. My goodness, tripping over my words right here. Take no offense by it. I mean it all earnestly. Super excited to welcome anybody who's trying out Beyond All Reason for the very first time. Probably a weird game to start with. I always imagine there's probably somebody out there who's watching Beyond All Reason for the very first time on one of these games. And yeah, this is definitely a weird one to look at. I would definitely say this is maybe a skewed perspective as to what this game is supposed to look like. But either way, yeah, definitely welcome aboard, and I sure hope you enjoy yourself. Bombers coming in. Directly towards the fusion reactor. Oh, they kind of missed, though. Yeah, they were actually popping the build power right there. They didn't realize there was a fusion reactor just inches behind where they were actually bombing. If that bombing connection had been just slightly to the left and slightly further back, probably would have popped these E-converters and taken down at least one of these fusion reactors right here. Not bad whatsoever. We need to bomb this, cries out the blue commander here, pointing out the fusion reactors of the maroon commander over there. And I think I have to agree. At this point, that energy lead has been made up, though. Oh, I see why. Ah, the Lavender Commander. Taking well advantage of the lull in action right now to go for some very, very high-scale economy scaling. Yeah, we're going straight up to an APHIS at this point. We've got 3 fusions churning out energy and metal. And now it looks like we're going to be turning our eyes towards those highly explosive T3 late-game energy production facilities. The Advanced Fusion Reactor produces 3,000 energy. And just like I was showing you that self-destruct radius, this is the explosive radius of the Advanced Fusion Reactor. You can see it may as well be a gigantic landmine. These things are extremely dangerous if they explode. Is that a spy bot? Oh my goodness, a cheeky spy bot connection. Very nicely done. Second one will be shut down right there. Nice catch from the green commander. But yeah, shutting those Sheldon down right there is definitely quite nice. Allowing the yellow Sheldon to come in. Oh, and the bomber play. That's a setup if I've ever seen one. A beautiful back and forth play right there from the red team. Manticore's trying desperately to shoot down these bombers right now, but having a hard time. Fighters coming across to try and do some damage here as well. Bombers, will they connect with anything juicy? They're headed directly towards the E-converters, but luckily, the blue commander's on top of it and will be able to shoot down those bombers before they find any real serious value for the red team. Still, though, taking out a bunch of those Sheldon hurt. They hurt especially more than usual, right? Because, again, remember, we are up to 20 Sheldon now. 21 minutes into the game. That's almost a Sheldon per minute. A little bit less than that. The economies are just barely getting up to scale here. APHIS up and running for our Lavender Commander Sneffy. This kind of eco-greed can pay out in the long run. If you end up getting a T3 or a T2 lab to spam out units with this kind of economy, I could certainly imagine the Lavender Commander pulling their team into the lead right now. But right now, that lead is only so temporary, right? As long as the economy scaling continues, that lead is going to close and close and close. Oftentimes, that can be fatal. It's a tick spam coming out from the red commander, followed up by a T3 lab. Interesting. We're going for a 4 APHIS T3 lab off of several E-converters here as well. Not the end of the world. Certainly going to be a little bit slow, though. It's a race against the clock for the blue team. If they can push into the other side of the map before those T3 units really come out in mass, I think they're going to be in a fabulous position. However, if those T3 units can come across and hit hard, like the trucks they are, they're certainly going to find some immense value. Massive ball of hounds moving on the left-hand side as the Maroon Commander tries to find some value here. These T1 units finally finding a decent engagement. What a messy ball of units. Over 7,000 metal worth of T1 units right here. All getting in each other's way and not really able to fire effectively at all. Hounds having a field day, blasting away into this crowd of units. Every volley seems like 1 or 2 or even 3 units are going down. Oh my goodness. That is beautiful. One of the reasons why we eat up those T1 units whenever we can is, of course, because of exactly this. As soon as that T2 starts trading out, you can see just how inefficient it really is to fight that T2 head-on with your T1 army. Hound's getting a little more courageous here as that army has been thinned out and now starting to push forward for the economy. E-converters need to be placed at least 3 of their own body lengths away from each other in order to effectively not chain react. Any more than that and you're above the limit, right? So you can have even less of a chain reaction. Sure, can feel like they're arriving a little bit late to the party here. Already most of this T2 has been cleaned up, but you know what? All that said and done, that was a huge ball of T2, and basically all of it is cleaned up here. Not a tremendous amount of damage to the economy. These wind turbines, so chain reactable. Having me in the edge of my seat thinking about a single stray hound projectile flying into the middle of this ball of wind turbines. But I suppose if it did survive, then this puts the Lavender Commander in a really nice position. Obviously this reclaim is going to be phenomenal, but resurrecting it is just as powerful here. Resurrecting the T1, not so much, but resurrecting the T2 certainly seems like a good idea. And then, of course, after that, you can just go ahead and send them across the map and try and find some value that way. Or you can always reclaim them as well to further your own economic adventures. The blue team really pulling ahead here. I'll remind you, it was the red team with a severe economic advantage for the large majority of this game. It was nearly a 2,000 metal advantage, or 2,000 energy advantage. Now, the blue team pulling in a solid 27,000 energy versus the reds near 20,000. So now 8,000 energy lead for the blue team. My goodness. Whoa, that was very close. Nearly popped the wind turbines here. I'm so scared about this because obviously if these wind turbines pop, they chain react into the E-converters. The E-converters pop, they chain react into the advanced E-converters. The advanced E-converters pop and they chain react into the build power. This is a tense situation, a tense building order that we've got over here, but very, very, very powerful, of course, producing a whopping tremendous factor of resources here for the blue team. LRPC firing away. Oh, okay. I don't mind that one bit. Yeah, LRPC gonna find immense value here as well because there's so many soft targets, those E-converters and build turrets and all that sort of stuff. Makes a lot of sense to go for one of those, I would say. Looks like sharpshooters are out of the map too. Yeah, ticks are having none of that business. Gonna jump on top of those sharpshooters immediately. Nice pull right there from the Seafoam Green Commander, recognizing, hey, wait a minute. Don't let those sharpshooters build up to numbers or else they're gonna spiral out of control. Any of those heavier units that we're gonna rely on into the mid and late game, suddenly gonna find a really hard counter in the form of the sharpshooter. Nice defense over here. A couple of T2 walls to keep this area nice and locked off, forcing the fire directly into the static defenses over here. Very nicely done. Marauder coming out of the T3 lab. What are we going to do with them? Obviously, Marauder are quite fast. They do relatively high damage. Oh, some more beautiful Spybot connections right there. Lovely stuff. Paralyzing a couple of those Sheldon, but also, more importantly, I would say, a couple of those Sumo. Very, very heavy early skirmishing bot, or Salt bot, as they're called. Extremely powerful for dealing with frontline spam like ticks and grunts and blunts. Another Spybot over here as well, providing a lot of vision. Very useful. T3 lab coming up for the Lavender Commander. Off of 3 Aphis, 1 regular fusion. This T3 lab is going to come up pretty quickly here. With the, whoa, another Spybot connection. Where was that one at? Oh, over on this side. I see. Sharpshooters EMP'd over here on the left-hand side. Opening up an opportunity for some of these pink forces to move forward. Makad walking the commander back and losing tons of energy for it. Not sure if that Spybot connection was as good right here, but either way, blasting down these sharpshooters, very, very nicely done. Catching those before they can really scale out of control, obviously going to be a massive boon here to the blue team on the left-hand side. Static defenses having a field day, blasting apart what remains of this T1 army. LRPC continuing to fire away, man. Plasma Shield glancing these shots, oh, directly into the back line. Oh my goodness, wind turbines chain reacting everywhere. Horrifying, horrifying ordeal to be under, where this LRPC may have shots deflected directly into your backline if you don't know it. It means that everybody in the backline is going to be forced to go for a couple of shield generators here. Go ahead and turn this volume down ever so slightly. There we go. Double checking, still trying to correct my sound system after playing on the official Twitch channel. There we go. Let me know how that is. Let me know if it's too quiet or too loud. It's quite a lot, actually. I'm a little bit hesitant about it. I don't know. I have no real way of telling mid-game. That's why I rely on viewers like you. Thank you. Anybody remember those PBS commercials? PBS advertisements, I guess? Marauders coming across the map. Once more looking for damage. They're out for blood. Blood red Marauders looking for a raid to partake. Sharpshooters on the blue side here, though, having a great job. shooting down some of those Marauder over there. Not giving them very many opportunities. The red commander wants to build up enough of these Marauder to go for a devastating crush, right? They want to win this game with one swift push, but it is to the blue team's benefit that they've spread out their bases a whole lot more. Yeah, the red team is much more clustered around in this northern section. You can imagine a couple of really good nuclear missiles could connect in a big way over here against the red team, where the blue team is a little bit less prone to suffering on the behalf of any large strike like that. LRPC continuing to find value. I wonder how many kills this thing's gotten. 24 kills, not bad for an LRPC. Marauder now rushing towards the base of the blue commander. They find a gap in the armor. Meals with a nice D-gun early on. Kills one of the Marauder. Does not manage to snag another, though. EMP bot, very nicely done. Paralyzes most of those Marauder over here. Going to mean that the ticks can run in to clean up some of them here. Trying to dismantle as many of these Marauder as possible. Shuriken to keep them paralyzed is quite nice. And they're going to be shot down pretty easily, though, by the backpack missile strapped on the back of those Marauders. Now running directly into the back line of the blue team. That's a dangerous push marching forward right here for the green commander. Trying to find some value right now as the Sheldon fire away behind their sumo. But it's a massive chain reaction as the Marauder push into the base over on this left-hand side. Meanwhile, Bombers pop the Aphis ball over on the left. And just like that, the economy collapses for the blue team as the Marauders continue to devastate the wind turbine farms and shatter the hopes and dreams of our blue heroes. A beautiful surgical strike right there from the blue team, managing to sneak those Marauders in where they were most needed and managing to bomb down the biggest eco cluster for the blue team. The blue team unable to counterattack effectively here. LRPC trying its very best, but the Marauders, they're just too powerful. The build power has been shot down, and now the Aphis is going to be the next primary target. 20%. 10%. Boom! Goes the base of the Cyan Commander and all of the remaining energy production. You can see the blue team plummeting from the lead all the way down to 10,000 energy per second. Nowhere near enough to sustain this battle. And indeed, the red team manages to come back in this very close game beyond all reason. Preserving the lead early on, but losing it in the middle, and certainly clenching up as the blue team encroached, but managing with two very precise strikes to narrow the odds and score a win. Wonderful match to everybody played. GG as always, and I sure hope you enjoyed. Thanks a ton for watching, and I will see you in the very next one. Peace out, everybody.